Welcome back to the 24th floor. Time to talk some high school football, the most wonderful time of the year. And so I'm bringing some more help. Joining me on the show for the first time, he is a Missouri School of Journalism graduate. For those of you who don't know your journalism schools, very prestigious, very highbrow. An Emma Bowen Foundation fellow, a high school beat writer for the Commercial Appeal, and again, an all-around ball knower. It's my guy, Wendell Shepard. How you doing, man? Good?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. You've been here, about a year? One full year?
A little over a year,
What did you think about your first full year doing high school football and high school sports here in Memphis?
A lot of fun, a lot of learning. It's a big area to cover, but there's a lot of talented athletes here, a lot of fun stories, so I enjoyed it.
All right, well, we got to jump into this jamboree. The Memphis Shelby County High School Jamboree begins tonight, runs through Friday night. Get a little taste of the high school football that is to come now through December. There are games at 6 different sites tonight, 5 games tomorrow with some of the best teams in the area. My guy Wendell, where are you going to be? Who's the game you got to see here in this jamboree?
I'll be at Crump Stadium tonight, Central and Southwind. Southwind moving up to 6A this year. They're playing an old 5A opponent, but I think both teams are going to be interesting this year just because Central doesn't have Hayes Wright graduated. Quarterback of the last couple of years, his little brother's taken over, and Southwind, Kelvin Perkins, obviously Mr. Football winner, Mr. Football finalist last year. I think they're going to make some noise in 6A. They got a lot of talent there, so I'm looking forward to seeing them in action. For
Southwind in particular, Kelvin Perkins, obviously a Mr. Football winner. What was it, 2 years ago? He was a finalist again last year. Do they bring back a lot of the same talent that they've had, or is it this kind of a new crop of kids?
They were a pretty young team last year. Last year was kind of their rebuild year, if you want to call it that. They have a lot more veterans this year. To answer your question, yeah, a lot of guys that they brought back, or that they're bringing back from last season, especially on offense. Last year they kind of had to run the ball a little more, didn't have the same kind of high-flying, deep passing attack that we saw. Perkins was running the ball a lot more, but they have a lot of talent at receiver. Defense are going to be solid as well. So I think they're among the more veteran teams in the area now.
And then you mentioned Hayes moving on, graduating. He's in the highlight reel that we just showed kind of right there. What do you know about his little brother? Same kind of arm, more of a dual threat? What can you tell me?
I think sort of an unknown at this point, from what I could tell. Tall, just like his brother. So I think that'll be interesting, and it's kind of Central and Munford there at the top of that 5A region. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Just going to pull up the full screens we've got. We can give you a picture of what the games are going to look like. Here are your Thursday games. Cordova versus Fairleigh. That'll be at Cordova Stadium. Central versus Southwind at Crump. Overton, Germantown, and East High are going to be at Halley Stadium. And you see 3 teams there because they kind of play the Jamboree schedule. They kind of play like a quarter running clock, right?
Yeah, against each team.
Kirby, Mitchell, and Middle College at Kirby Stadium. Whitehaven, Mace, and Kingsbury at Whitehaven Stadium. And then we get to the Friday games. It'll be Hillcrest, Westwood, and Hamilton. Douglas, NBA, and Manassas. They'll be at Crump Stadium on Friday. Oak Haven, Raleigh, Egypt, Trezevant, I can never get that right, at Melrose Stadium. Please forgive me, y'all. I didn't do it on purpose. Wooddale, Trezevant, thank you, producer Rich. Wooddale, Sheffield, and Kip at Kirby Stadium. And then Craigmont, Booker T. Washington, and Bluff City at Halley Stadium. One of the things that you mentioned that you were really interested to see, we talked a little bit about in Southwind going up to 6A. 6A Region 8 here in Shelby County is a bloodbath every single year. What can you tell me about what that region looks like this year?
It looks a little different because you have 9 teams now playing in Memphis teams in 6A. They've split up the regions to where Region 7 now is also a Memphis region. So that's kind of your old Region 8, which is Houston, Arlington, Bartlett, Carterville, and I'm forgetting one there.
Whitehaven.
Yeah, and Region 8's Whitehaven, Germantown, Southland, White Station. So it's pretty interesting. They've split it up now, which will be good as far as whoever makes it to the playoffs, they won't have to play each other immediately. But I think Region 8 is going to be particularly interesting because you have 3 pretty veteran teams in Germantown, Whitehaven, and Southwind with tons of talent. And I think that'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, in the other region, you have your old rivals, Houston and Collierville. I think are going to be the top 2 teams there. Collierville, only team they lost to last year was Houston. And they new man at quarterback, some new guys elsewhere, but a lot of talent there in Houston. Obviously, the kind of best era of Houston football these last couple of years. All of the stars of those teams, with the exception of Celia Davis at running back, all of those guys are in college now. So I think it's really anyone's game in either region, I think. It'll be really fun to watch. And Houston Germantown week 1, no longer a region game. That'll be a really fun one. Still, from talking to people on both sides, it's still rivalry very much so, even though it doesn't count in the district standings anymore.
Yeah, that region always is super interesting. I mean, really 6A is really super interesting to me because it seems like you have one team that comes out of there every single year. It's been Houston the last couple, but even the 2 years before that, it was like, okay, well, if Germantown beats Bartlett this week, then they're going to be one.
Yeah.
Or if Collierville beats Houston this week, they'll be number 1, number 2. It's just kind of interesting to see how that pans out every single year. And obviously, the region gets split up just a little bit this year. So it'll look a little different, but those rivalries aren't going anywhere. Like, we kind of know that's kind of the case. Other pair of teams you were kind of interested in looking at, I know you're going to be at the kind of the private school version of the Jamboree on Friday. You really want to see what Christian Brothers and Briarcrest and North Point kind of what they got to talk about this year.
Yeah, so it'll be at St. Benedict. They're hosting North Point, Christian Brothers, Briarcrest. And I think Christian Brothers, Briarcrest, those D2 AAA teams, along with MUS in that region as well, I think are both kind of looking to prove themselves. Christian Brothers made the playoffs last year, and I believe they have 33 seniors this year. So a very, very much a veteran team. And I think Briarcrest, there's a lot of talent there. Hudson Tucker at quarterback. Plenty of other kids on that offense that, are getting college interest. And I think they only won 4 games last year. I think they're a lot better than last year's record showed. And I think those games are always rivalries with those Memphis teams in that region. But I think all those teams are really looking to prove some stuff this year. And I think Briarcrest, I think they'll win more than 4 games this year.
How do you evaluate the private school scene here? Because I know we see it kind of in other regions of the country where like a private school will almost like recruit. And it doesn't seem like it's all the way that way here in Memphis, but we still have some pretty good teams. And then there's some years where they're really, really good, and there's other years where it feels like it kind of falls off. I think MUS is a good example of that from 23 to 24. How do you evaluate the private school scene?
As far as like the moving around goes, it certainly seems that there's more public school to public school movement. I think the private schools here are all really strong programs. You see them play some of the public schools, and they either are winning or put up a pretty good fight. I think it's just that they're in the toughest, especially AAA, they're in one of the toughest regions in high school football, period. That AAA region they're playing, Brentwood Academy, Lipscomb Academy, those are both, teams that have kids in the pros, kids at high-level colleges, and I think it's just hard for those teams to compete with the Nashville and Chattanooga schools. You look at Baylor and McCallie on the other side of the state that are both nationally ranked programs, and they run into those teams in the playoffs. So I think that's more of the thing there, is just that those teams are good, but it's just who they're unfortunately having to play. And I guess in recent history, I haven't been here a super long time, but they haven't quite been able to get over that hump. But those are certainly good teams, and with plenty of talented kids.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Christian Brothers specifically. I think they had Knoxville Catholic that came in. I think it was last year, might have been the year before. But Knoxville Catholic was like the head honcho kind of that year, and you were kind of figuring out like, okay, like what is Thomas McDaniel specifically with Christian Brothers going to be able to cook up with a team like that? And I think you bring up an excellent point. The Nashville, kind of East Tennessee side of things on the private school side, it's just really, really strong year after year. You're talking about national contending level high school. So we'll have to see what things look like this year. Again, those Jamborees start tonight at 6 p.m. They'll run kind of a quarter running clock-ish, couple of series against each team that's participating. And then week 1 is next week or the week after?
Next week.
Next week, all right. So here it comes. High school football on the way. Make sure you keep up with Wendell Shepard. Tell them where they can find you, my man.
Commercialappeal.com. All my work's there on the high school sports page. Twitter, Wendell SJR_. All my stories and game highlights and stuff will be there. So.
All right, keep up with them. This is a rising star in the industry. This guy's gonna be here for a little bit.